Did you know that wine is considered today as the new gold? Yes, red gold. Simply because investments in wine are considered being part of these types of investment known as alternative investments. Alternative because they are more or less decoupled from the conventional markets such as real estate, such as stock exchange, cryptocurrency, foreign exchange, as well as many others. And this alternativity is demarked by a low level of volatility, meaning that we're investing here, in an asset class with very low risk. I'm not saying that we are that there exist asset classes with zero risk. There is no investment without a risk. But however, how is it possible to make money, and quite a lot of money, with wine, which is known almost by the whole planet as as an alcoholic beverage, but which in terms of passive investment is unknown to a majority of the world? Well, in this video, I give you the answer. Hello, if you're watching me for the first time, my name is Arno from Wine Investor. Here we talk about investments and entrepreneurship. And the concept is clear. You like and share the video as much as you can. You subscribe and most importantly activate the notification clock so as to always be premier on all our videos. Since the year 2020, the world has been going through a series of crises. After 2 years of COVID-19 crisis has come, the Ukrainian war, which has brought with it, a lot of negative changes. The cost of a lot of materials have tremendously increased. We've had the cost of we've seen the cost of basic commodities such as oil and gas tremendously increase, and this has led to the fact that in Germany, for example, and that might be the case in many other countries, the government has decided to put a lot of pressure on the central banks, which have on the end decided to increase the interest on real estate loans. And this has in turn led to a drastic fall in the real estate prices. In Germany, we've had in the last 7 months a fall of about 5%, up to 7 and 8%, depending on the region where you are in the country. Well, I'm not discouraging anybody from investing in real estate. What you need to know is that as a passive investor, you're trying to buy an asset when the price is down, as it might be the case right now and could be the case in the nearest future, so as to sell it back at higher price and benefit from an optimal return on investment. And most importantly, the fall in price could give the opportunity to, for example, for new real estate investors to have more than 3, 4, 5 real estates at a time. As a private person, this was the case in the last 1, 2, 3 years, and even before. This was not the case, because after 2, 3 investments in real estate, the bank will tell you, oh my God, you are already responsible for 450, 500,000 real estate mortgage, and it becomes more and more complicated to grant you another real estate credit or real estate loan. Well, this is good for people, for newcomers, but what is the case for those people who've invested in the last 3, 4, 5 years and even more in real estate? Because this fall, drastic fall in the price is the reason for the fact that a lot of people are close to the suicide point. And I know a lot of people in my surrounding who are really asking themselves the question, what a mess had they got into 4 or 5 years ago. And I would like to explain that to you with a very clear example. Let's take the example of someone who decided to invest in the real estate, for example, 3, 4 years ago. So he decided to buy an apartment cost at 100,000 euro cost. Of course, this the acquisition is related with extra costs, such as you have to pay land taxes, you have to pay lawyers and notaries in order to accompany you with this transaction and land transfer. So we're talking about 10% here, so 10,000 euros. So he's going to bring in a capital proper of about 10,000 euros in order to finance that. So the bank is going to grant him a loan at of 100,000 euros. So he owes 100,000 euros to the bank, and he's going to agree with the bank to pay that at an interest rate of about 2.5%, and he's going to be paying back off that loan every year at about 2%. So this means for a loan at of 100,000, you'll be paying back, 2,000 euros to the bank every year. What does that mean? This means after 5 years, you've paid 10,000 off. So after 5 years, you're somewhere here. If we say this is what you have and this is what we call the rest loan. Okay, so you are at 90k. Okay, good. At this point, you are in a situation where you have a real estate still valued at 100,000 euros or even more, and this guarantees a loan which you have which you own the bank, estimated at 90,000 euros, for example. So it's in a pretty good situation. But if the price falls down, as it's the case and has been the case in many towns, in Germany now, to 90,000 euros, what happens? You are now in a situation in which you owe 90,000 euros to the bank, and you guarantee that with a real estate which is valued at 90,000 euros, and even it could even be less, because the problem is that for the past years we've had extremely high real estate prices, and real estate were bought at prices that were much more higher than what they were valued for by real estate experts or by the banks. So you find yourself in a situation where you're pretty much at the beginning after 5 years. So you've invested 10,000 euros 5 years ago. After 5 years, just to find yourself still in that very same position. Still, you might have someone, a tenant who is paying back, paying off that loan, for you, no problem. But still, you invested 10,000 euros 5 years ago, and you, after 5 years, are still in the very same position. This is for someone, for example, who just invested, in one real estate. Let's take for example someone who really invested massively. He's just finished with studies, he's got a good job, he's earning about 2,500 euros net a month, and he's like trying to push. He wants to get a maximum out of it. He has no great charges. He's still living in his very small apartment, and he might still be living alone. So what he will do is every time he's save 10,000 euros, he's going to buy real estate. Every time 10,000 euros, buy finance 100,000 euro real estate. 10,000, 100,000 euro real estate. 10,000, 100,000 euro real estate. What happens after 3 years? As a starter, you still have this this saving power. You can save about 30,000 euros in 2 years' time if you want, and if you are concentrated. So what you do is you'll be investing 30,000 euros in 2 years' time, just to realize after 3, 4, 5 years that you are still at that very same position. So you've invested 30,000 euros 4 years ago to stand after 4 years at that very same position. And that's the very, very big mistake a lot of people do. And what is the first lesson you have to learn here? What you have to learn is that as an investor in real estate, because I'm not trying to discourage real estate investors, real estate still remains one of the great pillars in terms of passive investment. But still, you have to be very, very careful, because you can lose almost everything. So if you have saved 10,000 euros, what you have to do, you have to, can decide to invest 6,000 euros on real estate, and 4,000 euros, you can keep it aside, to invest in other, asset classes, so as to diversify your portfolio. The second time you've saved 10,000 euros, you could decide, to go on more risk. You could say, okay, now I know more about real estate, I am sure this second one is going to be a good one. I could decide to invest 8,000 euros and buy, an 80,000 euros apartment, and I'll be, putting 2,000 euros aside, and so on and so forth. So after 3 investments, you might find yourself, having saved 10,000 euros, which you can decide to invest in other asset classes. Because I know some people might be saying, yes, this guy decided to, be paying off his credit at the rate of 2%. You could decide to do it at 4% or 3%, for example. It's still possible. A lot of people did that so as to, in the last year, so as, to pay off the loan very fast, and, reduce the risk of prices falling down, or being in a very shitty position when the price is falling down. So in this case, you will see that if you are paying off at 4%, after 4 years or after 5 years, you have paid back 20,000 euros to the bank. So after 4 years, or after 5 years, you will be, for example, in this situation where after 5 years, you'll be owing, just 80,000 euros to the bank. It's too good. So in this case, after 5 years, if the price has fallen down to 90,000 euros, you're still in a good position. But people did that in the last years because they could easily transfer, the extra charges, the extra costs of returning back, the loan to the bank to the tenant. So you had tenants who had to pay a lot of money just to have a single home, and this is going to change. This is no more going to be the same thing in the nearest future, because as we see today, for example, in Germany, the government has decided, to seal, the cost, the yearly cost, for example, of heating the house, of electricity. So no utility is going to ask, depending on the utility, an amount to a consumer who's had costs higher than a certain particular amount fixed by the government. And this is going to be, if things continue to go as they're going, this is going to be the same, for example, for rent. The government might seal rent, meaning that depending in the town where you are, in the city where you are, you might have for per square meter a rent which you cannot ask from a tenant. And this is nothing new to Germany, because we've had that for the past years now in Berlin, for example. Okay, and this means it's either, if you want to pay your loan very fast at 4%, you have to get money every month out from your own pocket, which is a very silly way of investing, because you cannot invest 10,000 euros to acquire an apartment and be spending money every month just to maintain an apartment and paying your loan off. This makes no sense. And this means that you have to change your way of seeing, of looking at real estate. Very important. Every crisis is a chance to seize new opportunities, and to seize these opportunities you have to change your way of thinking. And real estate investors are not going to go away from these buy and hold strategies and concentrate on the fix and flip. Okay, so they're going to be fixing real estate and be flipping them and be selling them as soon as possible, because fix and flip means you buy an apartment which is more or less deliberated, and you try to fix it as much as you can to sell it to someone who's ready to pay the amount. But let's take this very same the same example of a real estate costing about 100,000 euros. You buy kind of more or less dirty apartment and for 100,000 euros. If you are a private investor, you might decide to invest, for example, 10,000 euros for acquisition cost, for example. Okay, you can still decide even to to pay this cost with the help of the bank, if the bank knows exactly what you want to do, if you want to buy and sell. But in that case, the bank will want to have every guarantee. The bank is going to give you some interest that are not going to really be that interesting, but it's left to you to know which strategy you want to implement in order to always be in a good position. So you're going to refurbish the apartment. That's going to cost you, for example, 30,000 euros. Okay, so at the end you've invested 40,000 euros. But you're not doing that just for goodness sake. You want to have money at the end. So if you are a very humble investor and you say, okay, I know that the market is very difficult right now, I just want to make 10,000 euros profit. This means for you as a private investor, if you don't have any real estate company, if you do it as a private investor, you will definitely have to think about the government, because the government also wants to have some money. The government wants to be part of it, and the government wants to have at least 50%. If as a private investor, you will be taxed at about 50% as far as real estate is concerned. So you have a total of about 60,000 euros. So you have to sell that real estate at least at 160,000 euros, which is still going to be very, very low, because you have to take into consideration the fact that by the time you want to sell the house, you have to get a so-called courtier, someone who's going to be walking around looking for customers for you. They have their own fares, which you have to take into consideration here. And during the 4, 5, 6, 7 months, or even 8 months in which you're refurbishing your house, you have to pay money back to the bank. The bank needs to have some interest. So this money you have to consider. So you end up, selling that apartment at the 180,000 euros. Well, this is not a price for someone who will have, an interest rate of 5%, because this is the average interest rate right now in Germany as far as real estate is concerned. Complicated, because you would take that risk to get a 5% interest on this amount of money and expecting a tenant to pay you, rent every month. That will be enough to cover, your loan charges. Okay, so what you're going to do here is you're going to, sell it to people who will be interested in buying this amount, paying this amount of money for real estate, no matter the situation. And these are rich people, because there is a difference between you as a small middle class person trying to negotiate, somewhere around this 5% interest rate with your banker, and someone, a millionaire who has about 1.5 million euros in the bank account and some Ferraris parked outside in his park, in his parking, who will negotiate about 2% or even 1.5%. This is still possible today, simply because he has in his bank account 10 times the amount of money he's trying to, get from the bank. He has cars that are much more, 10 times, cost much, have much, 10 times more value than this, the real estate is about to buy. So there's no risk the bank is going. And he has good relationships with his bankers. So he can really easily get this loan. Okay? So, and these people, they will want to invest, in real estate simply because they want to protect, their money. They want to protect, their wealth. So, as I said, anytime there is a crisis, it's a chance to seize different opportunities. And that's what they're doing. They are just looking for possibilities to save their wealth. And that's what you will be doing. So fix and flip is what is going to be the future. So what you're saying is that we have to go away from this concept, of investing in real estate to give the opportunity for people to have, for middle class people to have an accommodation, to an investment strategy which consists of putting in place structures, real estates that will be attractive for wealthy people and who will do anything to have those real estates because they have the money to finance for. Okay? So you are investing in this strategy because you are taking, away money from people who have already money. Stop investing, from, in a field where you'll be taking money from people who are, trying to keep it with life, and go to an investment strategy that will, enable you gain substantial money from people who already have more than enough and who have it and who are ready to spend. Very important. Why am I saying this? I'm not trying to give you a real estate course here. This is not my goal, because I know there are a lot of people in the community who can talk extensively about real estate. But I want you to know that this crisis is going to affect a lot of strategies in different investment sectors. Well, this is what I'll be talking to you. Like I said, if you have 4,000 euros, 2,000 euros, we said a total of 10,000 euros that you might have put aside after a certain amount of time, you will decide to invest it also in other asset classes that are more or less decoupled from the real estate, especially if you're a real estate investor, in order to make sure that you mitigate your risk. If you lose money in real estate, you have another system which is not, correlated, more or less correlated with this system in such a way that you still have some amount of money left somewhere. Okay? And that's what we're going to be talking about. If you've understood this, welcome to the Wine Investment World.